Welcome to Deep River Farm, folks. Well, I've been doing some studying on all this Sky Trail stuff. Been looking into it frequently, as much as I can. There's a lot of information out there. I've really been surprised at what I've been able to uncover when it comes down to who the companies are, the purpose behind it, where they're based out of, and the big discovery has been that there's very little oversight, very little regulation in this weather modification / cloud seeding / geoengineering stratosphere aerosol injections. And what I've discovered is there's probably more regulations, restrictions, and requirements out of the information that has to be filed with the NOAA.gov, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And you know, you've heard the government hundreds of times deny that anything takes place. And even on the NOAA, it'll tell you that what you see is not what you actually are seeing. They're claiming you're seeing contrails and not chemtrails. To tell you how far back, I found an article that would actually tie the government into it, was all the way back to the Vietnam War, and their weather modification project was called Operation Popeye, and it was designed to create and can have continuous rain over Vietnam during the Vietnam War. Now, what I've discovered, folks, is there's multiple companies out there that are using weather modification by putting different chemicals in the air to give you the opportunity to write off carbon. So if you're a company and you're polluting a river or whatever, you can purchase these carbon credits, and these companies will go up and spray this stuff up in the atmosphere, which creates weather modification for rain or whatever it may be, due to their Charlie Lima Indigo Mike Alpha Tango Echo change. Can't say that word for some reason, they'll flag you, but you can follow what I just said. Charlie Lima Indigo Mike Alpha Tango Echo change. And that's what it's all about. It's I would call it a big circle of money that runs around through corporations to basically create a name for polluting called carbon, to turn around to utilize green energy to it's just a big money scam, folks. It's like a big circle of money goes around, and that's all it is. It's a big scam. And even during 2024, the White House was funding weather modification through a lot of these companies. One of the companies I found called Rainmakers, I found them on the NOAA.gov website, had been spraying, and I found the name of the person that had signed it, and then it said they were affiliated or out of Delaware, Wilmington, Delaware. So when I plugged in the name of the company, they popped up that they was based out of Canada. Same person on the filing for NOAA signed it, supposedly was out of Wilmington, Delaware when they signed it, but the company's based out of Canada. And then you've got other companies that launch these balloons up that sells carbon credits. Sunset makes, and or Make Sunset, I can't remember what it was called. I'll list it in the description. And they were in business for making money off of sending up these high altitude balloons to drop all this stuff in the air to offset carbon that these companies pollute, and giving them carbon credits. It's just a big scam. It's kind of like a Sasquatch, if you ask me. But all this spraying that's going on, folks, they're talking about this silver iodide and stuff, killing the microorganisms, getting in the water, killing the aquatic life, killing the plants in the water, killing the plankton, the microorganisms in the water. Then in turn, the fish eat it. This stuff gets on the plants. It kills the plants, and then the earthworms consume it. And then the birds eat the worms, and it gets into the food chain, folks. So it's a big mess. They're creating a big problem. It's causing a lot of health issues for people. If you've noticed, back in the day, this stuff's been going on a long time, folks, and they started out calling the climate deal acid rain. If you remember that, if you're old enough to remember, I'm talking about acid rain. Acid rain is the trees are dying in the mountains. Well, if you go back into the 90s, folks, you can see where they did a lot of this spray, and even back then we didn't know it. And I remember in the mountains that the trees would be dark brown, and people's cars, the paint was coming off of them and stuff like that. And they were claiming that it was the pollutants from the paper mill, when in fact it was from all the injection spraying and stuff that was going on overhead, and probably combining with the possibility of the paper mill. But anyway, it changed. It went from that to a different terminology. Global warming, that didn't take hold, and then they went to climate change, and they just keep changing the name, trying to get something that'll stick where people will believe it. And the only way they can get people to believe all this stuff is all this spraying. Well, think about it, folks. Remember Roswell, New Mexico, and all that flooding that was going on out there, and they had record rainfall and all this stuff? Well, folks, do you remember how bad it was? I think there was people killed. There was a lot of businesses lost, a lot of homes lost, a lot of people's lives was destructed. Well, guess what? I got to finding stuff where they'd been spraying about that time of year. And a lot of these companies that are involved in this will just put out a file number and put it on their thing that they're going to be spraying between October of 2023 and April of 2024. And it don't tell how many times they went up spraying this mess. It just tells that they wanted to create precipitation or snowpack or stuff like that. And I found that the Idaho Power Company was spraying. There's a tremendous amount of spraying that they're doing. I saw a lot of spraying in Utah listed, a lot of spraying in California listed, spraying along the Gulf Coast. We're going to call it the right one, Gulf of America. And all this flooding that the Appalachian Mountains are having, folks. I found listings where they were spraying along the Gulf Coast. And is that what's causing all the flooding in, from Helene and from the Kentucky flooding and the Virginia flooding, all this flooding that's going on in the Appalachian Mountains? Is it because of all the spraying along the Gulf of America? And then you have the ability for these companies to come in and spray to absorb the moisture. They claim it's to alleviate possible big hailstorms and stuff. And how are they doing this? They're doing it by balloons. They're doing it by high altitude aircraft that are above the commercial airliners, which most of them typically fly below. Some of you great big long haulers going overseas might go to 40, 41,000. And then your spraying's going on above that, folks. So this stuff's getting way up there. It's getting into the jet stream and getting pushed everywhere. So these contaminants are going all over the place. And they can get on these ships and use these gigantic fans, kind of like props, and push these chemicals off of the decks of the ships to dissipate fog and things like that. So that's falling right into the water, getting right into the fish and the aquatic life that way. And all these chemicals, they're just dumping into the water. And then I was reading an article where some guy dumped a big old shipload of some kind of ash or something into the Pacific Ocean to create an algae to cool the water down. And, there's no regulations behind any of this stuff because it's stuff that they've denied all these years, and it's all because of money, because they're all making money off of it with that scam energy mess, the green scam. And so that type of stuff is being denied, and we all know it's fact. And I'm going to list on my post page, folks. If you'll go to the home page, Deep River Farm, you're going to see some posts. I'm going to list some of the application forms so you can see the companies involved. There's also phone numbers on those sheets, folks. Wouldn't hurt if some of these people was called and questioned about all that stuff. And it's public knowledge, so you might as well ask questions if you want to call them, because they're killing everybody. It's kind of like the cell phone industry. They're using data from 27 years ago, 1996, on cell phone radiation before they ever had the smartphones. So it's all a lie. The radiation coming off of cell phones is massive. And they talk about your likelihood of just using a cell phone 17 minutes a day is a 10 times likelihood you could develop brain cancer. And that's all because they're using flawed science, flawed data. Money buys whatever science you want to have. That's the way it is. There is no science. It all depends on money. You can buy and create and make whatever you want using anything, any kind of scientist. They will make it fit your narrative. Whatever data you need can be created. So there's no true science. You got to be very careful on what you're reading and what you're believing, because money talks and money can buy the science. So anyway, I just wanted to touch base with that today and let you know what I had found and all that good stuff. So you all have a good idea of what's happening with this weather modification, what's behind it, how they're doing it, how they're delivering it into the atmosphere. Think about it, folks. They're even using sulfur dioxide in cruise ships that goes out the stack so that it can modify the weather. They're using all kinds of different ways. It wouldn't surprise me any if they wasn't using it in these newer model diesel vehicles, in that diesel exhaust fluid. I wouldn't be surprised if it's not in some of that stuff. So they're always trying to get something to make people think that there's actual Charlie Lima Indigo Mike Alpha Tango Echo going on, the change going on, when in fact they're creating the change to make people believe it so that they can get rich off of it. Well, folks, you've heard my rant today on this stuff. I'm continuing to watch and look, and it's there. All you got to do is look up. And I believe the Bible says to look up and watch, for the coming of the Lord. Well, if you look up enough, you're going to see him spraying too, folks. So keep that in the back of your mind. I appreciate you watching today on Deep River Farm. Hit that like button and subscribe, and give it a thumbs up and make a comment. That helps the algorithm. And send it to your friends and family that just don't believe any of this stuff, and let them know it's there. And be sure you check the post, because I'm going to post some of these filings that they put on the NOAA site, so you folks can see what it looks like. And you might want to even go on that website and go under weather modification and data, and you'll find it yourself. And there's thousands of entries. I appreciate you watching this evening, folks. Have a blessed day.